Apologies. This guy is almost useless. I don't even know why. Like, shoots 4K, and by the time you upload it, doesn't even look 4K. So we're gonna try something new. We're gonna see if the $600 phone beats the $2,000 camera. So where were we? Look up these guys. They'll give you more of an in-depth background on the niche of this. Look at our banking to understand how this works. To understand that this is never actually in this equation. And then also, this is the key point. Because the land records are all just an open registry and anyone can go record anything for whoever as long as you got the right structure and framing behind it, they'll allow you to submit it. Obviously, you can't just show up with colored pencil and just submit anything. But nonetheless, that's the main issue, and we're going to correct this because title agents, again, title, are not looking for the deeds, the actual physical copies. They're abstract agents. All they care about is abstract. Can I figure out from someone in the universe putting something on paper and putting it and getting it submitted on here? They'll accept it. And there's some other things that they'll do and whatnot, but trust me, they are not holding these guys accountable or even these guys accountable. So that it's very just anyone can go record anything and say, hey, I have a lien against this property, and they have to deal with trying to pay them. And they will not deal with law. Law is a court jurisdiction. Law is a court jurisdiction. What we think law really is really private. This is what America, land of the free is. Law is not that. The Constitution, which is Danny Hammond and Tom Kimbler, if you get into their foreclosure strategies, they take it to the highest level. They take it to the federal and the Constitution to show, hey, all these states are not following and doing what they're supposed to do, due diligence. No injury in fact, there's no case. If there's no claim to a liability or an injury or some kind of damage, there's no controversy. There's no controversy, there's no disagreement, and there's no judge to judge or referee that disagreement. And that's what they'll do. But the issue is that you're still using their laws. So you're stuck on their side of the equation. And if you look at our two properties, you can see it doesn't matter what the law is because you're stuck in their law game. And you think law and court's all about justice. It's not. It's our attempt of it. We can see how that's playing out right now. But the real equity and justice lies in the private, the equity, the spiritual jurisdiction, the abstractness of justice, equalness, fairness that we try to write down. That's why law is land, air, and water. It's physical. It's here. It's 2D. Or even 3D if you want to call this 3D. Abstract private's 4D. It's in the higher jurisdiction. Who presides and mediates and judges on this? Well, judges do. Sometimes clerks if you're on the non-judicial proceeding, and sometimes even other entities can actually, smaller business mediation companies, arbitration companies can actually also step in and judge if two parties allow it. What is this side? Who judges this side? Well, this is what we're going to get into, that equity spiritual jurisdiction, and how it ties into the real this world, not just staying out there, but tying it into this world that you can actually use it. Instead of using the law, I want you to use this. You're going to use the same structures that law uses, but you're going to flip it, reverse, duality. You're going to use the same structures, but you need to use different language so you don't confuse them that you're in that jurisdiction and that you're going to stay in this jurisdiction. If you need more explanation of jurisdiction, we'll make a video, but Cal does a really good explanation of it to show you, look, you're not trapped. You're always free. It's just a matter of your knowledge of being able to use that door to stay free and not get sucked into this jurisdiction. And when we are stuck in this jurisdiction, because I know a lot of us are, and even myself, I got pulled into this and stuck into this. I tried to apply this, and you can see this throughout the motions I've submitted. But since it was a motion, I'm saying, hey, it's in this jurisdiction. If I would have sent them as notifications instead, same system saying, hey, there's these issues. There's no holder of due course. There's no promissory note. There's no originals. And I don't even have an address for the real actual lender. Nonetheless, I'm in this jurisdiction where the judge, the highest person, can just throw all my arguments out, especially since I'm not an officer like an attorney of the court in that system. I'm a citizen, or I'm not even. This would still, a citizen would fall under this jurisdiction because, again, citizen has governmental ties that pulls it into that. The legislation and everything will pull you back into that jurisdiction. I'm not saying when you can know how to stand your ground on this side that you're just going to be instantly free. You're going to have to still apply this side. Just how they have to apply their mechanisms and tools, you have to apply yours. We will break down this in a timely manner going from the beginning, how to stop them, because this matters. Because you may think, well, this is already over. They already foreclosed on the house. I did none of this. And the house is gone, and it may even still be over 7 years past your statute of limitations, whatever it is, under the law jurisdiction or whatever it is. But again, you don't need to get pulled into that jurisdiction. So if you're not pulled into that jurisdiction, statute of limitation does not exist in this jurisdiction. This is a higher private jurisdiction, aka, let's break into it. It's the spiritual jurisdiction, the Holy Bible. Specifically, which Holy Bible is what we're going to get into, so that you know how to actually write the right quotes to stay in this jurisdiction and not use quotes of Bibles that pull you into this jurisdiction, because we know there's many different versions of that, whatever you want to call it, manuscript Bible, contract. I really don't care what you call it. I'm just going to call it the 1611, the original 1611, because that is what most monarchs, with the power of everyone complicitly agreeing them under their country, whether they know it or not, has that power and agreed on that version of that. And of course, you want to take it into religion of, well, that's not true, or then this one may be more true of what the spiritual realm is. And you're 100% absolutely right, because even that 1611 is our human interpretation writing it down. Now, I know when you get into Christianity, they'll say, well, that's all directly from God's word. You know what I mean? I'm not going to break down into that. My perspective is that it is a contract, whether it's real or not on the abstract physical side. It's real in our minds and our heads. And even if we've never actually read that, we've already complicitly agreed to it. So our subconscious knows when we do eventually hit it, even when the judges and the clerks and everyone on this side eventually hits it, the correct version of it, subconsciously, they're just going to play along. It's quantum mechanics. Like, they're going to be attached to that truth and knowledge, whether they want to actually do what you're trying to persuade them to do with that knowledge or not. So nonetheless, let's get into it. The normal situation is when you are at this, you're going to sign a promissory note and a deed of trust in your signature. And you're going to hand that over to a bank. At that point, whoever you hand these two documents over to, that becomes their path to ownership. Either you're going to continue to pay that fake money back, created out of nothing, back. Yes, I know this is stirring up in emotions and you think this is conspiracy. Go look at it. Go dive into it. And I can tell you, if you do have emotions about it, there's a demon, there's a jurisdiction in you that you need to get rid of. A mindset, a mindscape, something holding you back, a fear. And this hopefully will clarify to allow you to step into, oh, wait a second, I can resolve this legally and honorably, without having to try to paint the picture of everything's fake. So nonetheless, promissory note, deed of trust. When, let's say, you stop paying that, again, they're going to pursue the path to ownership through the law jurisdictions. And you'll see that. They're going to send you a notice of default. You'll get a notice of default in the mail saying, hey, you haven't paid an overdue bill of the promissory note, and so forth. And I have a deed of trust that if you don't continue to pay, I'm going to eventually get to this point and take your property. From there, they're going to escalate it. Okay, well, you're not responding to the notice of default. We're going to send the notice of closure. Notice of closure is saying, hey, we're going to set this date in front of a judge, and the judge is going to allow me to actually force you to sell this property so I can get my money back. The money that, again, you can go follow it, do a forensic forensic accounting report on the title. You can try to go ask the title agent. They're probably either going to be clueless or going to play dumb with you. Again, they're in a jurisdiction to hold their industry together and job. They have a lifeline there. Nonetheless, let's say you still don't answer any of that, and then the foreclosure happens, and they get a foreclosure order done. There are some steps in here. Obviously, you're going to have a hearing in front of the judge and whatnot for them to get the approved foreclosure order. But from that foreclosure order, it gives the deed of trust, the trustee, the power, the rights to go take it to auction and sell it. Now, this is all business. This is all commercial. Even on the private side, all commercial. Cal Washington can break that down for you through the acts and the different legislation if you want the law, black and white understanding of that and the proof behind that. But you don't really need the proof. You just need to understand what you need to do. These words are not going to be the words that we're going to use. This is just for a baseline to understand concept and common language wise. We're going to actually be naming this differently because there is power behind language. What kind of power is behind language? It throws you into two different jurisdictions. That's the power behind language. So that's why you can't just go out here and just rebuttal and throw the same thing back at them. You are mechanically wise, but verbally, language wise, you can't do that. Because again, you have to structure it on this side. So how do we do that? When you sign a promissory note deed of trust, you just have to counteract to that. Hey, promissory note deed of trust, all inside of this blue pill, demands is how you move the court. That's dominion, demon, control. That's all Lucifer. Understand? This is all Jesus, God, whatever side you want to take. It's just the opposite reverse of that side. This side, you're just going to ask. That's the power of inquiry. That's how this is all honorable. Don't get into just getting rid of discharges, getting free money, all that. Just ignore all that language and mindsets. Just know that this is balance. You're going to give them balance by honorably just asking questions. Exactly how the Bible tells you to do. Agree. This is all about agreement. This is all about disagreement. As soon as you have agreement and no disagreement, they cannot throw you into here. The issue is that they throw you into here and you're also automatically going to start arguing, and they will never have to actually prove their actual liability of, hey, I have an actual injury and whatnot, unless you pursue it all the way to the highest level of federal, and that's where you'll see success with that. I think eventually that will not be successful because, again, you are playing a spiritual game here. They will do whatever they want to do. It does not matter what the law is, and you can see that on my cases. It does not matter what the law is. They'll play the rank game with you. You're in their jurisdiction. You're in their playing field of the game board. Until you move it to the bigger game board and show them, no, I'm able to actually stand my ground on the outside or borders of your game board. And there's a bunch more pieces. I'm not going to play checkers with you of just very slow process of one motion over another motion. No, I'm going to throw everything at you at one time, and you're going to either reply or not reply, just like I did. Yes, I will give you appropriate time and due diligence, just like you'll give me due process. I'll give you due diligence. You understand? You see this? This isn't wordplay. This is contract structure play. It's not even play. It's just using the same contract structure against them. What was Jesus? He was a contractor. You may think carpentry using his hands. I think it was more contract side. Contracts. That's where the power is. Contracts. That's where the power is. So, for them to say, hey, you have to pay this promissory note, full amount, blah, 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 or I have a deed of trust connected to the property. And this is just a security agreement. You can go look at our fundamental definitions, and it'll tell you the difference between the promissory note and the deed of trust, the warranty deed, and such forth, and bifurcation, what happens when these get split. We need to rebuttal the same thing. They're trying to throw guilt and sin on us. We're going to rebuttal and throw repentance and just asking honorably, hey, let me bring light to all the liability that may hurt other people. Because if I argue that light, that fraud, all that stuff, I'm going to get sucked into your jurisdiction, and then it doesn't matter what law is there. It really doesn't even matter what you do. So nonetheless, we want actual structure. We want real justice. It's not in here. There's pieces in there, but that's the facade they want you. They want you to get sucked into their business, their court jurisdiction, and then it's just free realm. They can do what they want. Um, Here, they can't. Why? Because on that outsider board of things, there's, whether it's science, quantum mechanics, whether it's spirituality, angels, demons, whether it's the Bible, Jesus, angels, the watchers is what they referred to in the 1611. And that's what you need to start actually referring to it as, the watchers. Don't use demons or angels or jurisdictions or domain. Or judges or adjudicators or attorneys of the higher spiritual realms, lawyers of the higher spiritual realms, whatever you want to say. Use what language is in that 1611, because the more you use that, even whoever you're against or dealing with, we got to get out of that disagreement. We got to get into the agreement, the acceptance, not the argument. To do that, we just send them back the same thing. Hey, here's a notice of liability. And in that notice of liability, it isn't that simple as just giving them notice of a liability, because I've already done that in these two cases, saying, hey, there's not any actual proof. There's this law. There's that case law. There's all this evidence. It's over 60 pages of everything I connected for them to say, hey, here's the full understanding of all foreclosures. And again, they didn't want to hear a thing. So you can go look at that. And they actually, more than didn't want to hear a thing, this is where I know this is a spiritual realm, spiritual demon that I'm dealing with, because instantly they flip it around and call fraud on me when no one is accusing me of fraud besides the judge, and has zero evidence of any fraud on my part at all. So instantly you can tell whether it's his human emotions for some reason. I don't care. That human emotions is an individual self-built demon in himself that didn't come from somewhere else. Do you understand that? That's a jurisdiction, domain, matrix mindset that he put in himself, ego-wise, or someone else put into him, culture-wise, believing that this is real or something, or believing that this is coming from someone's money and not being instantly created every time you do this. So you thinking the Federal Reserve or the Treasury is the only one that creates money, you're a goddamn lunatic. You're a child. And that's why they will run you amok in this jurisdiction, because they will treat you just like that, a child, and they will say, I do not want to give you your allowance, and I will give your allowance to the more responsible brother, the attorney, the substitute trustee, or the lender in the bank. That's how this goes. Do not get pulled into this. Do this. Send them a notice of liability with tacit agreement. Tacit agreement means it's a silent conditional acceptance. Just how when you silently don't respond to any of theirs, they're tricky. They won't tell you that. They won't say it's silent agreement. If you don't show up, they will say it on the notice of default. Hey, if you don't show up, I am going to allow the judge to just foreclose on your stuff. But it doesn't matter. It's just a trap for you to show up, and then you're stuck into their jurisdiction, and then anything. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just the fault to just kind of throw it in there. It's actually kind of more of a clue of us, what we need to do. So when we send our notice of liability, we also want to put in there, we want to keep it in the higher jurisdiction. And I do not want to be sucked into your lower jurisdiction where I have to play by your rules, and I'm going to be outmaneuvered by officers of the court, the judges of the court, and have no full scope, full disclosure of all the unwritten laws and mechanics behind what's going on in here. Because if you do undiscover it, you're just a conspiracy theorist, and you're just complaining and whining. But you just don't deal with it. Drop it. Know that you still have to deal with it and respond to it, but you're going to do it what the Bible says, in agreement. So when you send the notice of liability, you're saying, hey, I am going to pay you this, but for me to pay you that, I need to know you're the actual owner and you're the actual real holder of this note. And I need to know it's not bifurcated. Those are kind of three simple liability things. Because if it is, you're fraudulent, you're doing this. And I'm not going to use the law that's not out there of how to fine you for that. I'm not going to use your lower jurisdiction to figure out a damage number or a number to put on this bill. This is all a bill that you put the number on. You agreed with them to put the number on. Now you're going to create another bill with another number that they're going to be locked into if they want payment. So for them to fulfill this contract, they first have to get through this contract. And this contract, we're going to structure so well that there's no disagreements that we can get sucked back into this. Joiner fee, meaning that if anyone who holds this wants to actually join a court, a different jurisdiction, join an attorney, someone else to deal with the negotiations, the situation, to make it unfair, because that's what it is. We may want to say, oh, well, you have the opportunity to just go get an attorney and hire an attorney and they can deal with you. That's not an opportunity. That's an industry we've built that they want to keep alive. Just how realtors want to keep their industry alive, lawyers, attorneys, and judges want to keep their industry alive. Realtors, title agents, title insurance, all that industry that's all technically private want to keep it all alive. Yet they don't want to have any accountability or liability. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to structure the individual empowerments of every homeowner, every honest, ethical title agents or real estate agents or attorneys, anyone really, even your neighbor can help you with this. Law may say you have to have their attorney license to deal with all their stuff, or you can show up pro se, which if you show up pro se, you're a baby in the court. 100%. I'm not going to get into why, the explanation and the proof on that, the whole birth certificate, social security numbers, the treasury, all that stuff. It doesn't matter. You can see it, like, when you get into that court, like, I wish there was video on mine, like, you can just see the judge only look at the attorneys and completely never look at me. And I don't know if it's a personal thing they're doing to try to not say it, but show it. Hey, your word, your whatever you say, pro se, civilian, free citizen, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to hold up in this court. It's only going to hold up in this court. Now, of course, you still have to deal with this court if you're already in the middle of it. The good thing about this is repentance. At any time, you can go back and say, I'm sorry. I was highly confused. And you're being honest. I was highly confused. And here, I'm going to start applying the right things as best as I know currently as I'm learning this. Because I know you're going to be on a time hack and you're going to be pressured to go, go, go. You can either wait out until they do all of this stuff and go back and track it still. But it's much, much easier before you get to this point and they take that property. And they know that. So they're on a race to get that property out of your hands as fast as possible. And you're on hopefully a race to block that, get it out of that jurisdiction, and then we'll work on using that jurisdiction to clean up this mess. But first, we got to get rid of this, and we got to get rid of this bill. How do we get rid of the bill? We create our own bill. So as soon as they don't answer to this, and they may think this is just retarded, and you think you're a civilian and can just do this, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, I'm the one that made this, and you're the one you're trying to, do stuff off the shit I made. It's my signature on it. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create another thing and say, hey, you didn't actually produce this within our time frame. Now I'm billing you daily charges because you're clouding my title. There's liability there. And if you can't actually give me these documents, well, guess what? Your notice of defaults turns into an actual true bill. They have a notice of foreclosure and you have a notice of true bill. From that true bill, it acts just like how they have on their notice of foreclosure. They have a $500,000 mortgage note here. You have a $500 million true bill here. I am telling you, you can put whatever this fake inflated money on it you want. They can create whatever they want. You can create whatever you want. There is no law against it. There are traps. These are the traps. They will hit you for paper terrorism. They will hit you for split of minds, distress in court processes, contempt in court, fear and confusion to act in court, failed or losing the argument in court. But again, these are all court So as soon as you learn how to break out of the matrix, their matrix of law, you don't got to actually worry about all this. They will never be able to touch you with any of this. And your get out of jail free card is just a written repentance saying, hey, I'm sorry. I did not understand. I agree with you on all this stuff. I'm going to apply the same again and over again because they're going to keep trying to argue with me. Hey, I'm going to argue that you're paper terrorisming all of this stuff just to get free money or out of a mortgage. Well, before I try to over explain and break that down, which is going to be a losing expense because it's still in your jurisdiction, let me just do what my jurisdiction says, which is your jurisdiction also. I'm going to say I agree with you. Maybe it was paper terrorism, but it's only paper terrorism because I messed up and I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. Let me correct it. Here's the correct version. Here's the correct 1611 Bible exact quotes instead of whatever other quotes. Here's me not using any of your language, and here's my full language not using any of your language to try to get me on a split of minds of not knowing the difference between those. This is also the fear trap, and you need to understand this is your get out of jail, unlimited free fear debunker. So we can get through this process. This is just shifting the guilt. That's all this is. This is an emotional utility thing. Even when you use it to buy something, I pay someone and it gives them the guilt that they have to give me whatever I paid for it. And if they don't, then I can do all this stuff and really hold the guilt against them and build up the guilt more than just the simple one transaction we talked about. But not looking at that, looking at what you're stuck in, foreclosures, you can do this process, which we're going to do out through you. The main thing is you may think, well, what's making actually this process that I'm just creating on my own paper legit compared to this process, which has more law, many to one instead of one to many of people actually doing foreclosures. Well, you can do the same thing they're going to do, except when they do their auction, they're giving it and selling it to a third party on a more public auction site, the courthouse and whatnot, more local. When you get down to your auction point, you take that same true bill that says, hey, I'm able to actually, I already have the rights of whatever money is against that property. Same thing as the foreclosures. I have rights of this much money to sell this property and get that money back. We're going to just securitize and bond it. And the same. They may have a 500K as max they can put of the original promissory note I gave them. Well, I just rewrote it and put 5 million on this bill. And I can securitize and bond it, not on a public courthouse auction, but I can take it to the U.S. Treasury where all of this goes, where this is probably at before you even close this, the truth. So you're going to do the same thing. And now you're going to have a $5 million bond of a promissory note bill, true bill, on the open market that people can actually purchase or trade around. And they know it's backed by all of the liability of this side, meaning that when they buy this bond, and if there's any issues, they can now pull the wealth and the money or the assets from this side. You can only do that from this. If you try to do that from within this system and jurisdiction, you're not going to accomplish it because they understand I cannot set that precedent within my jurisdiction, my dominion. They will allow it 1 or 2 or 3 times, which is why I think Danny Hammond and the due process method at the federal constitution level will not. It only goes so far, and eventually they're going to stop that too. So you need to understand how to start applying this side, the higher jurisdictions. Because when you listen to the application Cal Washington's doing, he's doing it on not mortgages, but smart meters, vaccinations, 5G wireless, all of that. He literally takes this process of creating a true bill and billing it against liability, evil, injustice, inequity, whatever. And you got to be very careful because technically you could do this for unjust things too. I could technically go around and I could take people's land just how they do. For all the banks and stuff that just go record whatever they want on land record and have literally no backing behind it, and there are people out there that get stuck with that, that's what they do because they understand the power of this. You now need to understand the power of this so you never have to deal with that. And once you understand the power of this, you can start actually doing the same thing. You can actually start going and billing people liability of saying, hey, your property is causing this issue. If you do not fix, I'm going to bill you $1 million a day, blah, blah, blah. I don't care what the numbers are. We already know this is probably going to shoot up to those numbers anyways. We already know this 20 is not 20. This 20 is a $2 right now. And what does that make it? To have $20, you're eventually going to have $2,000 for $20. So again, do it now. Don't wait for them to do it. Do it now. Because when you do it, we have the control of the money. And we take it out of that system. Out of the 50% lawyers' pockets. Out of the judges' percentage and bonds and whatnot on their cases. Out of the goddamn system and industry that they have. America isn't this. America is this. If you want to think about America, what the morals of it was supposed to be. As soon as we wrote the Constitution, it threw us back into this. Back into a New England. A new monarch. You may say democracy, there's no royals, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, the jurisdiction seats. The seats that are created, not the people that are in those seats that get rotated through, but those seats last forever. And those seats are individual entities, beings, jurisdictions, abstract domains that control all 100% of the time, no matter who's in or out of that seat or the seat's empty. That's why we want to get rid of this and get back to this. If not, we know the ending of this story. It's in this book. The ending of this, I'm assuming, would be that paradise ending. But we have to start individually applying it and getting rid of this and getting rid of this because it's all fake. This is all fake. I'm not saying it's 100% fake. I'm saying there's probably less than 2% out there that's 100% real. People dealing with their actual neighbors, one-on-one in person. Anytime you involve a bank or anytime a bank gets into the situation, we instantly know it's money created. And once that money is created, it's more fake than that paper money that we think it is that the Treasury actually prints. That paper money is the closest thing to it, but that's not what gets dealt in here. So we're going to break this down and we're going to start actually using the words and the vocabulary we need. So this notice of liability isn't going to be a notice of liability. It's going to be a deed of repentance. Because we have to start shifting the guilt. Every time we backfire, eventually at the end, this $5 million bill plus the real liability they haven't answered to of the higher courts saying they don't really care about what the two monetary numbers are on this. You think the higher courts abstract realm care about that number? Obviously they do on this side because they understand the control, the utility of it. And you also need to understand the control and the utility of it. Because they get our permission to have that control and utility of it. And we are all the same person, if we do it properly, to cancel that, discharge it honorably. What does that mean? It means not just sinning and then saying I repent, sinning and then saying I repent. That's obviously a scheme and a fraud and whatnot, and you're taking advantage of this. And these guys are just going to outsmart everyone. They're going to obviously start doing this side and cockblock it. So I actually want the scam artists to start coming over and start using this side. Why? Because then it forces this side to also start using this side. And what is this side? All about agreement. What is all about agreement? Everything will eventually work out a lot faster than this side. This side goes nowhere. We know where it ends. We know where this side goes. Once you get down here, and if ever it does have to go take it and you get pulled into a court of saying, well, which one's higher authority, which one has more rights over that actual property, I want you to remember, and this is color coded for a reason, whose signature is on everything? The maker. You sign this and this, which causes them to do this, and you sign all of this. Plus, there's additional 2 witnesses. I forgot to write that on here. It's the power of 3. For them, they have a lender, a trustee, and a mortgage servicer. This power of 3, which is explained in the Bible, the trio or spiritual text or whatever you want to pull up, is how they're able to process this without any care of what's written down in black and white. That's how they're able to pull in whoever, whatever, the stigmas, the fears, the collapse of the economy, everyone goes to hell and everything goes to shit. That's how they're able to do that while staying ethical, good people. If you want to look at the Holocaust, that's how they probably did it. They had 3 trio to be able to just do it ethically, feel good about doing it, and stay in the right while doing the actual bad thing and being confused on everything. Nonetheless, for you, you need to actually also have 3. And who is that? That's you and just 2 witnesses. As we know, these guys do not communicate with each other barely at all. And they're just hired people from this guy. You do the same thing. Except obviously there's more power when these guys are actually connected and know what's going on. So if they actually know like the power behind this, there's going to be more spiritual strength behind these documents. So this 5 million bill has more strength because these 2 witnesses also know the actual legitness behind it. Now, again, you can still have these guys clueless, your witnesses, how these guys are clueless, and you still transacting everything. It's just how they do over here. And again, they're able to do it and pass it through the judge, pass it through the clerk, pass it through the mortgage server and trustee. That's all kind of just clueless. But allow that process to still take, even though their own laws tell them otherwise. This process, as long as you have 2 witnesses on each of these documents that you're sending, that's what makes it legit. There's never going to be a law that tells you that this is legit. Never. And there's never going to be a court case either that tells you that this is legit. Why? Because this does not get dealt in court. When you have this set up correctly, it cock blocks it. It's not a disagreement. You cannot hear it in court. Obviously, I may get dragged in front of someone one way or another, and then I have to say it again. How many times do I have to say it? A max of 3 times. How do I know that? Again, go into the 1611 Bible. And if they're still not going to list you after the 3rd time, I am telling you, those miracles that you hear in here, the examples, the stories of the court cases that get dealt with in here, the same court case explanations, miracles, and are going to happen. Go look at Cal Washington. He's literally smiting people down. Not Cal, obviously. Cal is just doing the proper thing, bringing cases to the higher jurisdiction, higher courts. But those bailiffs in those higher courts, the watchers, they don't play around. They're not slapping cuffs on you. They're taking you out of the game completely. No civilian life, no life at all. That's the power behind this shit. And these guys haven't structured it. Andrew McDonald will teach you how to stand your ground and do it, but you need something more structured on the 2D realm of the people can start using and putting on and transferring the guilt. Because these guys never even receive a negative bill. You think the goddamn attorneys and the judges are receiving foreclosure orders or notices of foreclosures or defaults? Probably not. The funny thing is, though, they kind of are. If you look at 620s, one of the attorneys, I'm not going to say who, just so there's no slandering, he's going through a foreclosure. And I've looked at his foreclosure case for his own personal property. There's no rebuttal, no argument, no agreement, no nothing, no movement at all. He is stuck and trapped on this side of the equation. Once you're unlocked to know this, the red pill side, you break free out of that matrix. And you're now on the real world. The real world still involves this matrix, but you got to stop from getting pulled and sucked back into that matrix. And that's where you get into kind of more of the conspiracy stuff, the misinformation out there about sovereign citizenship and like revoking your IDs and all that stuff. It's much more simpler than that. You don't need to do that. That will work, but you're going to cause more utility issues for you if you do that than just submitting this. You can stand like the judge judges. The judge has to stand as 4 different courts as one court. Get into their study of law, and that's what they do. And they can pull in this court, the equity court, into them. That's what they call the chancellery court. But in a true equity court, a judge cannot be the judge. In a true 1611 equity court, only the watchers are. There's no rebuttal on that. The issue is that you have to apply their court system, and you have to get over the religion language. I know as soon as you hear that word, your mindset, emotions click off. This is all gone. That's fine, because that's my barrier entry point to this power. When you finally get over those emotions, or those stigmas, those fears, whatever, and can see the power behind this, then you'll start using it. And that's why I know I can give this out for free to everyone, and not have to worry about that kind of good gatekeeping of managing this stuff, of ensuring these guys don't just catch on to it and start just manipulating everything. Well, no, I trust this side 100%, and I know as long as this knowledge just gets out there and we start actually making easier versions, law versions of this side, and not getting sucked into this jurisdiction and keeping it to where we can always have that connection to those realms and jurisdictions, then it flips the game completely different. It keeps us out of this ending of this game, and keeps us more pointed to this ending of this game, and which is why I love what Cal's doing. He's keeping the money out of it, so that you stay focused on the actual power utility behind it, to get people to start taking actual accountability on this side. Because if you're in this jurisdiction, play this game with accountability, it does not go anywhere. Trust me, I tried applying high-level Marine Corps military accountability structures and tactics on this, and it does not work, because you're under a judge that will play God in his own jurisdiction. And then for you to only allow God to actually step in and correct him, because another judge may or may not correct him, and probably in the end scheme of the overall health of the system, it's unbalanced. And you have to take it to the higher. How? Agreement and just asking. Hey, judge, are you allowed to do this? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, judge, if you do this, does it unbalance the actual true equity in things? Hey, trustees, if I pay you this, are there actual other notes out there that you're unaware of? Instead of demanding it, hey, trustee, you do not have an original document. There's no wet signature ink on this. Hey, trustee, you can't prove that I did this, blah, blah, blah. All arguments. You get sucked into their jurisdiction. Just agree. It's not submitness. Agreement is not submitting. Agreeing with structure, protection, defense. That's offensive. I know. Everything's ass backwards. Law and justice is not there. And this is what you got to do. You got to do the things that aren't written. Hopefully this is enough written that it connects for you. Again, it's not the full detail, but if you can keep it out of the courts and in front of the courts, you will find true justice, because true justice, it's not a if and or a but. It's not yes or no, maybe sometimes, how it is in here. We're limited on our senses in this realm. They have unlimited access to all senses. So the emotions and guilt that we know we feel on all this finally gets heard. They don't care about your fucking emotions or guilt in here. They do about it in here because they understand that. That's the currency. So yeah, once we actually start doing this, this is going to fix the land records because you can submit. We're going to have a deed of repentance. We can instantly submit it on the open registry land record, public record, showing, hey, anyone that's going to try to just falsely record documents, you're going to have to get past this. So don't even try it. And then for the people that already have maybe a promissory note or a deed of trust out there, and maybe it got sold twice and bifurcated, but again, this is all, we don't know what's going on here. Either does the judge. But nonetheless, it's going to cockblock them too. It's going to act like a credit locker, but for your deed. And yeah, I actually had this discussion with one of the elected deed managers or reps or whatever they're called for the local land records here. And again, he agrees the closest thing that they've applied to help the deed fraud is that they can have you write down your contact information, and as soon as something gets recorded, they'll send you an email. That's his closest thing. They will not stop it. They will not do anything. They will not let you rebuttal and say, hey, no, take that off. Nothing. That's the only thing they'll do, so that you have notification, hey, I need to start applying this if I haven't applied it already to whoever submitted something on here. Even if it's a contractor, material lien, or whatever, you can still apply this. Again, your contractor's your neighbor, so understand these aren't always fraudulent. They are 99 out there percent fraudulent right now, and that's what we're going to correct and start putting scrutiny in here so this doesn't keep happening. Or the inflatedness of the market keep happening because these guys won't back down on their interest, won't back down on their settlement, won't back down on double dipping on all of their money. So that's what we got to do. We got to start taking our power back, aka Cal's Empower movement, to start doing this. And if you don't got to wait for me to do this, you can actually go look at Cal Washington. I think he's the least corrupt one on that. Just because if you look at people's pricing mechanisms, as much as they say they're here to help, I understand the business aspect. Oh, well, I have to keep a organized community and I can't just let everyone in. Well, the people that you need to actually help are the ones that are trapped, and you're now gatekeeping them from that knowledge and that help and whatnot. I think it's because they have fears of collapsing that dollar because they don't have another dollar to go by. They don't have the clarity or built up trust in someone to build up the money on this side. This is the wealth trading we're doing on the foreclosures. And I didn't know I was going to get into this until we're here today. So you're going to take all the wealth that they're sucking from here and you're going to suck it back to here. Back to the individual peoples. So if anything's on your deed of records that is not your neighbor, you have full jurisdiction in this realm. And I don't care what the reason is. I don't even care if you're the scammer, honestly. I don't care if you're the scammer just going out there, grabbing those banks up, and playing the fraud game that they're playing. Yeah, you can go to a bank, get a mortgage done, and the next day submit this, and this will be 100% true, and they can't do nothing. It's gone. That's where a lot of fear creeps in. The fear isn't necessarily so much there for me because they got money now. Cal Washington got his own money, so he doesn't care really that much. But Andrew McDonald doesn't have his own money. He's got his own knowledge of keeping out of a lot of the jurisdictions and stuff, and how to apply that, but he hasn't applied it to actually start creating his own money. Andrew McDonald will help you with the foreclosure on a more deeper level of dealing with those people interactively in court and role playing and all that stuff. Cal stuff, you have to be able to read through those lines. You have to take the system and niche industry he's used it for and start applying it to your use. And then once you do, hopefully we'll have it structured by then for everyone to kind of start using as I wouldn't say a template, but as a starting guide of, hey, we can apply the same process. Here's an example of it, and go do what you want. I'm just here to bring light to this so that all of this darkness that's hidden out there, the bifurcation, the fraudulent deeds that do not hold up to defensing or getting off of on this side, it's now going to get blocked. So if any of this made sense, even down here, we haven't even got into this stuff, but pause the video somewhere and read this entire board. There's probably at least 2 years worth of research knowledge, mainly because I got caught on this side. So about 10 months was all of this for the law side, so that I know black and white I'm right, all the way back down to the creation of the money or whatnot. But it doesn't matter when you apply that. You got to start, look, I can't use that. I can't use that. Can't use damages. I can't use a 1983. I got to use a notice of liability. I can't deal with motions. I got to submit notifications. I can't deal with calendaring stuff. Like, I got to just show up and say, hey, I'm not here as a pro se in your jurisdiction. I'm here as a sole individual person. There's a specific Latin phrase for it, pro knock something. I can't remember. But nonetheless, you got to stop doing all this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I've already highlighted, I have an entire authority reference guide for them, and they don't go through any of the authority of all of this. So it doesn't matter what you throw them authority wise. The laws are just a legislation thing that they may follow. They still have full discretion as the judge. And you can take it to the 1983, like Danny Hammond and Tim Kibler, with due process and suing the individual judge as a person acting under the color of title. The issue is that color of title always exists. So it doesn't matter which human is stepping into that judge position to act under that color of title. That color of title is always going to be coloring over us, clouding over us, not fixing stuff based off of what's already written legislation-wise of what law is and shows them. We can't have bifurcation of notes. We won't tell you about the creation up here at the first point. And when you're doing it down here, you're double creating it again. And then when you go to foreclose it, you're triple recovering it. And now we worry about inflation just because of a treasury printing cash. No, there's way more digital getting printed than anywhere else. As above, so below. This is your key point. As soon as you send this notice of liability to whoever is attached to their 3 trio, it is in their triangle, their trio. Everyone knows about it. And in their law terms, it would be notice to the agent is notice to the principal, and notice to the principal is notice to the agent. So when you give it to their attorney, and their attorney may not even know exactly what the fuck it is, and he may not even pass it on to the lender or the mortgage servicer, well, guess what? It doesn't matter in the spiritual realm, as above, so below. What does that mean? Quantum mechanics. It's just tied and connected. We don't have to logically understand it or know it or be able to humanly interact with it. It just happens. I love Cal Washington's. He goes through some of his court cases and stuff, and you'll see it instantly. Like, as fast as people change judge-wise of a demon of calling you fraud and trying to manipulate you and whatnot, as fast as they'll switch and the watcher will embody and go through them, the higher truth and knowledge, and they'll start applying it. Oh, wait, this is fake. Oh, wait, they don't have any injury. Oh, wait, there is no claim. Oh, wait, there is no paper. Oh, wait, this is all just a hearsay. Wait, oh, this is all real. Oh, wait, that means that $5 million is real. Oh, if I want to get rid of that $5 million and say that's fake, I also have to say this is all fake. Well, I can't say that, so I can't say anything to this. So this just starts happening. And they can't do anything over here. Nothing. They can't even bring in legislation and say, do this or do that. Because it would infringe on this. And if it infringed on that, this is the scam that you should be worried about. Don't be worried about someone trying to scam this side. Trust me. The more you do that and just do that and scam them like that, fraud them like that, they're going to change. They're going to, they're going to start doing this stuff. They got to take their own medicine. And they have to figure out, how do I fix that medicine? So even the scammers on this card aren't actually scammers. It's, flipped, reversed. They're warriors. They're ones actually taking the wealth back. It's not stealing. It's not. We know the truth behind this side. Now, I didn't break all this down, and I know a lot of people are going to complain, but let the algorithm go. Just do not take the video down. Keep this up and try to spread it out as far as possible. Download it, clip it, do what you got to do. It will be on the main sites, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, those guys. Yet you understand the power behind this and people's fear about giving it to some junkie, and then the junkie going to use it to just go steal people's property, how they do on this side. I don't think that's going to happen. We already have to know that if this is all real, what does it say about the demons, the dominion, the jurisdiction, the abstractness of this side? It's quantum mechanics. They're not stupid. They play dumb. They play ignorance. Lance Corporal don't know. But this side is 100% connected and is allowed to do the mischief. It's even written in the law they're allowed to do the mischief. It says you must allow the fraud to partake. Well, how do we keep the fraud from stop partaking? Keep it out of this system. Keep it in this system. And if they want to say fraud on this side, if you're keeping it in this system, well, they got to take it to that Bible. And they got to take that to the higher court. What does that say? If it's not your neighbor and you're charging interest, it's sin. So this, no matter if you did it willingly, knowingly, purposely, whatever, I don't care, repent. Now, obviously, if you're doing scamming on this side, that repentance isn't fully true, but I don't think it's going to be an issue, just based off of how agreement works. They would have to agree to the scam if this was a true scam. And that's the beauty of this, because it shows the light of their scam without contesting it, without any controversy, just agreement, which keeps them out of that jurisdiction and out of that control and power, which helps you. You're going to eventually be thrown into probably in front of a judge at one point. And that's where you probably should go down to Andrew McDonald's to understand how to actually stay in the language of equity and stay in the language of spiritual instead of getting into their language and their jurisdictions. Yeah. Because if you keep it outside of the court, justice happens. Inside a court, he has the written laws and justice he's got to deal with. And his own individual mindset to put in there, trying to let go of the money, because he doesn't want also his bank account to just disappear because he hasn't built up real money. I mean, it's both fake money, but he hasn't built up ethical money. Let's put it that way. So yeah, as we're shifting right now, we already know that the dollar, the paper is going away. It's going to get shifted to digital. It already is digital, but it's going to get shipped to the crypto digital side of it. So that they give us an inch, but they take a mile of everything. And then from there, it makes it even easier to do this side too, because now we're also digital too. And that's the only change we're going to have probably the next less than 5 years we're going to see. So you still have to do the hand portion of this, the writing portion, and you still need the wet signature ink, because you still need that original document. You can't start playing the electrical game with them, the digital game with them. Yeah, I know it's blockchain's ledger is, unfungible, blah, 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 whatever. And you would think they would apply that first to the land record so that these stop being fungible. And it always has authority from the homeowner. But nonetheless, yeah, we're going to digitize this. And eventually when you get down to here, this will be just a crypto coin. And then that crypto coin you can easily just transfer around or sell. So you don't have to even use their treasury bond. So you don't have to take your true bill and submit it to the United States Treasury so that people can bond it and buy and sell it and whatnot. The same thing they do with your promissory note. So that's where we're at. The issue is that you do one side and it's already, hey, I'm only going to do one aspect. They're doing 3 aspects. And who knows how many people can do this? Because if they split up the promissory note and the deed of trust, they could have also sold the promissory note twice for more than whatever it was worth. And again, law doesn't structure our economic game. It steps in when we start way going out of the bounds. But This is how society works. This is how even England works. Queen, royals, whatever. This is how it works. There's a higher court above all of it. There's a higher court above this physical realm. And the closest law written down thing we have to that is the 1611, the original 1611. There's even a different 1611 version out there, so make sure you have the original one. The one that the Romans brought over from Rome to Europe. That one. Not the one Europe rewrote from that. And then you have many, many other ones after that also got rewrote. So you got many different versions of the Bible. But we're looking at the 1611 because that's where the monarchs all lay their hand. And you can go see it in the last England transfer that's in our generation. This is your roadmap. And hopefully there's enough here that you can start going off of it. I know it's not every detail because I'm still structuring and writing all these out. I'm putting the Bible verses and the deed of repentance. I'm still dealing with, well, what happens if I'm already at this stage, the auction stage? How do I catch up really quickly to that? Or if I'm already in the state court, the federal court, appeal court, how do I block all that? The next one, we will break this down because I know you still want clarity on what are the law options you have. That's where you'll get into bankruptcy, settlement, everything that stays guilt weighted on your side. It may clear and wipe the debt, but guess what? The guilt's still there. You didn't wipe that off of that, and that's the spiritual imbalance that's still there. And that's why you have to go correct all those fraudulent foreclosures that happened, even if it was 40 years ago. Statute of limitations is not in this jurisdiction. I mean, you say, well, how do I do that if I'm never going to take it to court and I'm never going to actually foreclose on someone? You got to understand this jurisdiction. If you don't, you probably haven't read the Bible or had any study on that Bible. Even if it's the current version that we're using, that version at least has some kind of connection that you can start connecting this. And then when you have to actually write it down and use it, then you have to go back to the original quote, the original current authorized version. Don't let me use that. They're tricky. Don't use the authorized version. Use the actual original 1611. Because that's what is actually behind the mechanics that the higher courts actually use. If you use any other version that's manipulated of what we wrote down, even the 1611, we wrote it down, but it's what we've on this realm agreed to with them, that's the translation we're using. And if we use some other translation, things are going to get mixed up. And with how much they're going to be fighting to keep that dollar amount, I think it's the real estate industry. I don't think it's the business. I don't think Cal's billing them at, I think he says he's going to eventually be doing $1 billion a day for his money he's creating. I don't think even $1 billion a day is going to be enough to bankrupt them. Because eventually he'll have enough money on his side through just the liability of the vaccinations and stuff and whatnot that this side does not take care of. We know that. Well, guess what? All that money and stuff, again, he's going to do the same thing. He's going to crypto, and he's going to digitize it so that it's decentralized and you can't touch it. Like, even if this side tried to just shut down his stuff, it's all the individuals that submitted his NOL structure for those causes that created the true bills. They individually already have those true bills. And they can send it to the treasury and allow people to bond it and whatnot, but it still becomes, it's decentralized and whatnot. And that's kind of why I put this here. You're just blocking whatever they're blocking. And if you didn't send this or any of this, and they already have 3 strikes against you, again, that's why they're going to get the foreclosure order. But if you, again, just go back to day one, boom, I send that, it's going to stop this and bring it back in time to the original. Even if you're at this point, it's going to stop all that. Maybe not in the sense of reality time, but in legality in time, it's going to stop it. You may still have to allow the physicality to catch back up of stopping the judge, stopping the clerk, or whoever. But you have to start applying this. And without it, without the action, the proper action, the humble action, the non-fear action of collapsing economies, and that's bad. Well, what's the other option? War. That's how the other option. I mean, there's other Cold Wars, physical wars. There's other ways you can collapse an economy. This war, this is a spiritual war, which is why I have full confidence that it doesn't really matter. Like, yeah, I'm using physical aspects of everything, but for you to argue this, the only jurisdiction you can bring it to is the spiritual jurisdiction. You can try to bring it here, but trust me, it's not going to work unless you slip up and allow them to suck you into there, bind you into a contract that you're not supposed to be bound into. And that's, again, where you sign with the devil. So when someone sends you a complaint about any kind of lawsuit, they're binding you into a tacit conditional agreement, silent agreement saying, hey, if you don't respond to this, this is legit and we're going to pursue because we're going to control this situation, have dominion over it because you're not trying to take control and have any dominion over it. So we're going to create all this fictitious stuff, whether it's right or wrong, and we're just going to do it. That's what it means. That's why it's blue. That's why it's blue pill. That's why you got to step out of that matrix. That's why this is red. I don't know how many different languages, movies, stories I can actually do on this board, but there's about 4. You got the Bible. You got the many different versions of the Bible. You got spirituality. You got banking, balance. You got the matrix, breaking out, keeping it out of the matrix. Yeah, it's all the same language. And this right here is your ticket. That's your golden ticket. Technically, this rules over both of these. This is what your real money is. This green paper is what your real money is. Because this, I don't even know where that went. This is worthless. And I'm not going to do what you want me to do, jurisdiction demon. But this I can write 5 million on it. I can write 500K on it. This creates money. This takes legislation, bills, the commercial, community, Federal Reserve Bank, the Treasury. It takes all of them to create that thing. Which that thing is not even what they want you to create. They want you to create more of this. Hence why they're sucking up all of that. So they can do what they did in 1933. Let's suck up all the gold and then just decouple it. And when they decouple it, they already know, well, let me facade it back over to a new thing. The crypto. Well, the crypto that they're going to control is still on this side. Until you start bringing that new currency, that cryptocurrency onto this side, before they take control of all of it on that side. It doesn't really matter. Even if once they get onto the digital crypto stuff, we can still apply it and take it back. So say you're listening to this video in 5 years, and we already are in that situation because that's how close we are. You can still do the same thing. Eventually this will be another crypto and you would just do the same thing. It would be your crypto against their crypto. It'd be your bill against their bill. And again, whose bill is higher? The higher jurisdictional bill is higher than the lower jurisdictional bills. And that just goes over the money aspect of it. The main thing is you're worried about is the house, the utility aspect of it. I am telling you, once you start applying this, they will either just be clueless and just stop. And at that point, you need to make sure you have enough tacit agreement structure in there that you can clear your title from that. So you also don't have to try to deal with this court to clear that title. Because these guys also go by law. But we need to start using the higher jurisdiction law. They use contract law. We need to use merchant law. Merchant law is what you're going to have to apply for the land record and try to educate them a little bit to get this submitted on here. So that this stuff can get cock-blocked. This stuff is still going to be on here. The deed of trust, the promissory note, they keep private for obviously reasons. But we're going to put both the tacit agreement and the notice of liability on the public record. Because again, we're full disclosure. They're not. They want to hide the darkness, hide the fraud. And it doesn't even matter if you highlight the fraud in this side jurisdiction. It's the matrix. That's where the ludicrousness happens. You come back out to reality, it's hard truth. The same truth they try to use in here but don't always use in here. Over here, it always is truth. You try to up this system and make it untruth, I'm telling you, the watch is gonna get you. So yeah, as we do that, it'll start setting standards of the land record. Title agents will start catching on what's an actual fraudulent and non-fraudulent recorded document. So will deed recorders and stuff. And we'll start fixing the bifurcation of that because they won't be able to play that game with us. And they'll start actually lending properly. Once they start lending properly, they'll notice that, hey, this is sin as long as it's got interest in it because of the higher authority. And their banks don't have any authority to try to change that 1611 Bible. There's way too many other stuff attached to that. So guess what? The banks, again, are not going to be able to lend interest out onto anyone unless they're a local neighbor bank with local community people in there. How Richard Warner wants it. I think he's not highlighting it too much. He keeps saying that banks need to still control it. The quantitative, qualitative easing, the buying out, bailing out banks and telling them and controlling them, hey, I'm going to bail you out, but you need to use that bailed out funds to do this or that with it. No, that's not going to work. You're going to get stuck in their jurisdiction still. And we know the demons in there. We got to keep it on our side. So when we start doing this side, the asking, the highlighting of all the fraud, the highlighting of the fakeness of all this, the highlighting of the promissory note getting sold before it even got transacted and the deed of trust signed, all this stuff, all the shadiness that we can never highlight inside this jurisdiction. We do not have a flashlight in here. The flashlight is only when we start applying this side. As soon as we apply any kind of disagreement internally, emotionally, verbally, thoughtfully, you're going to get sucked in there. And when you're sucked in there, there's no flashlight for you to use. Your only flashlight is another attorney. Good luck. We know how that works with realtors. So don't do that. Use the flashlight over here. Ask the questions as king. You're a king over here anyways. You're a king that gave them the promissory note and the deed of trust. You're the ones with the only signature on there. And then they play the dominion, the demon on you, the jurisdiction on you. So you got to keep it out of there. You got to keep it free. You got to keep it private. You got to keep it wholly ethical. They may try to trap you, even if I wouldn't even use the word equity. That word is also misused so much, and like I use it, home equity invoice agreement. I'm particular and defined it in my contract that it's particular finance value of the property. Over here, they mean spiritual when they say equity. But the law has a whole equity law, another written book of trying to translate justice and law down. And again, every country has a different one, different version, and what they think and whatnot. None of them are wrong, but none of them are also 100% correct. And if they're 1% not correct, that's where that demon steps in and tells the judge, do not do that. If you do that, you're going to allow scammers, you're going to do this, that. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, blah, blah, blah. They'll do it. And they will not do it one way or another. So yeah, stay on this side because it will stay 100% right all the time. You will need 2 witnesses on this. The more you can educate them of what they're doing with you, creating a bill, money, that's what a bill is. Just the bill they send you to eventually becomes money. Same thing over here. The bill you send them eventually becomes money. It may not become what you're thinking. It may not become this money. You can still trans and convert it to this money if you want. You transact it. Same thing they're doing. They're transacting. They're taking their foreclosure money order and they're transacting it so they can get this as fast as possible. That's all they care about. How do they do that? They got to get you out of that house. As soon as you're out of that house, they know you don't have much standing there anymore. And they know you haven't even created another bill. You haven't created your paper bill to then also sell on the market to get this. But you're not being the fraudster. When you sell your paper bill instead of their paper bill is not disclosing. It even says it on it. Hey, I do not hold any liability for any discrepancies, blah, blah, blah. Wait a second. You're the trustee of this whole transaction. Everyone's supposed to have trust in you. It's in your name. And you're going to just try to sell this with all the hidden fraudulent stuff behind it. And you can see why I sent those substitute trustees a notification. I don't think I called it liability. I think I called it, I think I just called it notification notification to substitute trustee, and just highlighting and pointing out, look, there's all this that points out that this is not a valid promissory note and deed of trust. It's bifurcated. It's voided. Nonetheless, of course, they just want to ignore it because they know and understand they're in their law jurisdiction, their rank, their structure, and they can play ignorance as much as they want. And yeah, maybe a judge may or may not hold them in contempt or whatnot, may take his license, may lose out on his. He knows he can still use his knowledge and skill set to go help people without getting stuck in this jurisdiction. Do they all know that? No. Only probably the people that get over with finally learn that. And that's why do not take this to an attorney. If you're going to play on this side, yeah, do take it to an attorney because that's what they're there for. They know that game and that's what they're there for. They may or may not know this game. If they do know this game, then yeah, that's a good lawyer to be on because it's also double-sided. He may know this side, but he may still want to pull you into here so that he has control of the money. He knows his rates on this side. He doesn't know his rates on this side. And he probably feels less ethical of just writing out whatever number on here or trying to tell you to write out what number on there because he's not the one liable on any of this. He could be a witness on it, but again, the witnesses are just witnessing that this is all truthful, that you're making it all 100% it's you. You're taking the full liability. Over here, they do not do that. They do that in their own separation of applying spiritual realm principles and stuff, but they don't. You go ask a trustee this and this over their head. You go ask the title agent over their head. You go ask the judge. I'm going to guess around 50%, more than 50%, 60, 80% over their head. Yeah, and that's why you'll see if you got a good judge that's in the Bible and stuff, and is more Christian and you're going to have I'm not saying he's not going to be corrupt. Again, there's plenty of Christian people that are corrupt. I'm just saying you may have a easier time switching the switch light from demon to angel within his dominion jurisdiction. Because when you start citing the higher jurisdictions, he's going to actually apply the true equity, not the equity law. Does that make sense? He's going to start actually applying spiritual rather than equity law. That's his written book in his jurisdiction. True equity. I can't say law. Law is more of the written. It's land, air, and water. It's physical. True abstract equity, justice, isn't written anywhere. Our closest version is that 1611, and that's what you need to apply. They are not using the 1611 as their equity law. They're using their own written law of the 1611 and whatever they're describing from the actual abstract equity. And the last key thing for this side to be legit, don't get fearful of, every dotted I, every crossed T. Just apply the same timing and mechanism of them having to use this of due process. Apply it to this. Don't say due process. Don't use exact due process, but use the mechanisms behind it, the fairness, the equity behind it, because you're doubling up on both the written side and what the trueness of it is. And you can feel it inside too. I mean, you're going to still have fears that you got to get over, and those are going to be what you're going to need to decipher from. Is this a fear? Or is this a real thing? I can tell you if you're staying 100% on this side, it's just like more even on the science side. When you look at it, if you're trying to communicate with the higher realms, you have to use telepathy. You have to enter that non-physical realm. And if you don't think even telepathy is real, again, if you have an emotion that comes up with that, just go look at Kai Dickens' work on the telepathy tapes. She'll blow that open for you. And hopefully that's enough to blow up in your mind to start believing this too. I know this sounds all ludicrous. It all sounds conspiracy. It sounds, I can't just create my own money. I need a bank. I need someone to say yes or no to. No, you created it over here. Yes, someone said yes or no to you, the bank, but whose signature's on it? And when you take it back down to the law, on that signature, who do they hold accountable? The signature. You. Who on this side has the authority? You. You can again create whatever bill. Like I said in my banking explanation on the banking episode, it's not just the bank, how Richard says, that creates the money. It's a two-partner process. Us has to come in and push the opportunity to the bank to create that. The same thing over here. You have to push this to the higher realms with your witnesses. And there's some other strategies you can do inside the Bible if you want to add some extra power and mechanisms behind it. But for the written stuff, the 2D stuff, this is the basics you need. You need a tacit payment agreement, agreeing with them. You need a notice of liability saying, hey, if you do not provide this with me to prove no liability, that when I give you this payment, there's not going to be any evil, fraud, undoing, whatever. They're either going to continue the fraud. And again, they may do that. Allow them. It doesn't matter. You're going to just continue down your side. They may try to rebuttal it and say, argue with it and try to throw you into the jurisdiction because it's an argument. You're going to, again, stand your ground and say, no, one, that's not even a response to the actual contract that I made. So it's part of the paragraph that literally says what's not appropriate response. And you can put in there a disagreement on any of this contract is not a valid response. You must respond in this way, line by line, reference by reference, using this jurisdiction and not this jurisdiction's quotes and references. You can restructure it because when they try to argue this contract, they're arguing this contract, not this contract. When you're over here arguing, you're arguing this contract. You need to create a new contract that blocks them from ever getting to this contract. They can't get to this argument if you have a new argument that they must threshold get over to. And it's the same thing they play on you. When you're in here in this court, you're trying to say, hey, I have an argument against this or this, but they're way past that. They're already on the notice of foreclosure. They're on this contract. You're trying to argue this contract still when you're on this contract. And I know you can try to argue both of them because, oh, well, this says it must be valid. Well, this isn't valid. And you start that argument. Again, they're just going to confuse you and try to flip it one way or another that it just doesn't work for you. Use this and keep it out of there. And if you notice, I haven't used the actual words as much. So the transcription on this, the searchable SEO on this video isn't going to be there. Most of it's going to have to you're going to have to look at the video of this and not just watch it or listen to it, so that you can see what I'm pointing at. Because some of these words, if I start using too many of these words, it's going to get flagged and pulled into that jurisdiction, this video, to where they can have control over this video and this knowledge alone, so that you don't understand how these two interact. I can give you a video just on this, but if I give you a video just on this, you're not going to see this side to know your current understanding and how it has the same utility. It has the exact same power as this side, as long as you are able to change the words of the structures. And you need to first see the structures behind here. To see the structures behind here, these two particularly start with our foundation definition video. And then we're going to get into this side between state and federal. Because even on this, there's two ways they can take this. They can take them in a state court. They can even take this into the lower court, which they do, the NJP, the non-judicial proceeding before the clerk. That will get seen as a non-judicial, non-court kind of process, which is it's still attached because they're still a part of clerk of the court. But you can take it to a third-party mediation company, and they can handle it that way before they even pull it into there. And that's what you also want to kind of structure in yours. Hey, I have other judges besides the law judges, that jurisdiction. I have other structures of law I can't use the word law, of written words, of written jurisdictions that I can take this contract into and force and pull them into that jurisdiction if they want to play that game. Okay, if they want to argue any ethical thing you put on this, then they got to come play your argument in your jurisdiction. And if they want to pull it there, that's fine. I'll allow you to pull it to your jurisdiction, but I have a $10 million fee because for me to play in your jurisdiction, I don't know what my lawyer attorney is going to cost. I don't know what all my fees are going to be to play in your jurisdiction. And until you set up that simple contract agreement, conditional silent agreement, they're just going to steamroll right over you. They don't care if you have representation. They don't care. There may be one rule that they say they will give you representation if it's infringing on your liberty. None of this is liberty. All of this is civil. They will try to scare you with the liberty of these traps, but you have a get out of jail free card for that liberty issue. So don't fall into that fear. That should be it. We're going to break this down next in our next episode, and then this one will come following after that. So it may be another 2 weeks until you get the full breakdown of this. And then after that, we're going to break down how do we actually use it if we're in the middle of this process already. First, we're going to break down, hey, if you're directly clean and you're a homeowner and you just bought a house, you want to already start having this. You want to automatically put these two on record and then have these in backup if they ever rebuttal or do anything to try to come after you or come after your property. Again, it's not about just wiping and clearing the note and getting rid of the debt. It's about protecting your asset. If you want to still keep paying them and not have that emotion or confrontation or still hold up their digital number bank dollars as I still want that to operate in system, then keep paying the bill. There's nothing wrong with it. You're still sinning technically per this jurisdiction. But when you're ready to repent, you're ready to wipe away that sin of your ignorance of interest from a non-neighbor being sin, then repent when you're ready. It doesn't matter. You can do it when you want. I do not advise you I should reword that. I give you full agency to do what you want if you want to attack these banks by either just getting approved and signing these two and knowing that they're going to do some shady shit because that's the type of bank they are, and then just apply that. And once you apply that, it highlights their shady shit and they take accountability for it. That's why, again, you can't scam this. You can't use this system to scam it. You 100% can use this side to scam people. You cannot. The only banks are your other opponents. And even if you're trying to do a scam it with an individual neighbor, it wouldn't work. You would not be following this. You may be writing all this down and following the same procedures, but I'm telling you, they will get through because you're in someone else's jurisdiction. This is not your jurisdiction. Just because you're creating all of it, you have to understand that this jurisdiction is the higher jurisdiction that they get with and get possessed with, and you will too. So be very careful when you're trying to use this just to scam. And don't get corrupted through the money aspect, the capitalism aspect of it. Because even many real estate investors today, the whole entire wholesaling industry for real estate, it's literally 99% just corrupted in scams. Look, if you're going to take more money out of that asset than the homeowner, you're scamming that homeowner. You don't understand, even if the homeowner was unaware to all of this mess. And even if they were a homeowner for 1 or 2 days, they instantly took all this on for 1 or 2 days. Because They don't know if the next day they could have got sucked into all of this. And some people that happens. Um, so yeah, hold people accountable. You're not going to be able to scam it. And for the people who are going to try to scam it, they're going to be coming from this side. And when they do come from that side, they're just going to have to start actually going through the process. And when you go through the process, it does what they're supposed to originally do and what they don't do. This should be a 60-page, 2-signature between two parties agreement. That's not how it is. So if you go back and just look at your stuff and it just has your signature and name on it, I am telling you it's structured just how a true bill is structured. Meaning that they instantly take this and go securitize and bond it. And that's the key point. But again, you don't have to know any of that background or knowledge of how banking works and stuff. As long as you follow of just saying, hey, I don't want any title agents selling my property unless they are checking the standards of what it should be. An original document, wet signature ink. Accounting numbers from when the account was set up until whoever you're paying off, and that number better match, and all the accounting numbers better match on that. If it's $1 off, well, guess what? But it's not good enough for the IRS. It's not good enough for me either. I have standards. And until you put those standards down on your land record, they're just going to steamroll over you every single time. Title agents are not required to look at that. They do not have standards. They have some standards. AKA, I need a name there and I need some kind of tracking from original to the next, to the next, to the next. But they don't care if they were fraudulently recorded. Again, the law states that you can allow fraud to play out until someone can bring it up and prove the fraud. The issue is that fraud is a criminal offense that takes 99% burden of proof. This is all civil. It takes 51% burden of proof. That's why judges have the discernment of just saying, I don't really care. You can try to hold them accountable for, again, Danny Hammond's 1983 suing under their personal name, acting under the color of title, their rank. But you're only going to get whatever's written in damages in law or case studies. You won't be able to put a $5 million bill on there because the judge is going to say yes or no to that $5 million bill. If you keep it over here, you can put whatever you want on it, securitize and bond it. And guess what? That judge's assets are now, and he knows it. If he knows it from when you first started, he knows, oh, if he takes it all the way to the end, because you put a $5 million bill number on this, the notice, before you even get down to here, the true bill, he knows, oh, the state's not going to cover this. This isn't an argument. It's an agreement. And it's directed to me as the personal judge, not to my rank, my title, judge. And it's not about anything about in the foreclosure. It's just saying, hey, before I do anything, before I take this case, before I open it, I have this liability. I have a $10 million fee that I'm liable for before if I want to hear this case. And he has to either respond saying, that's a blatant illegal, can't do that, blah, blah, blah. What does that judge have to do? He has to take it to a different judge, disagreement, and argue that particular contract insurance. Now, he may just say it and just illegally foreclose on you and just say, screw you. Well, guess what? You just follow the thing. And when you get down here, you don't got to worry about any of this in court. You just take it to this and do this. Instead of security bonding it, you auction it. You take your $5 million bill and you auction against his assets. And that's why they're not going to want to touch you as soon as they start seeing you apply this. Apply the same things they do, but in your language, so they don't have dominion and control over it, saying that's valid or not valid. Well, you can't say that. If you want to say that, you're going to have to use what you use. You use the 1611. I use the 1611. Do you know if you even understand the 1611? Probably not. The judge in front of you? Probably not. Because you remember the entire lawyer, law, structure, legal jurisdiction system was built from Rome. They don't know that history. They don't know the history from that 1611 battle going to England, hiding everything and all that. They don't know that I can treason them, not under the United States government, but I can pull in England. I can pull in Scotland's army and the American Army and the higher spiritual watchers and say, hey, if you do not fix this liability, guess what? They're the enforcement. I'm not the enforcement. I'm just the creator highlighting the issues you're creating for everyone. And if you're not going to fix them, these people say that they follow the 1611 Bible and they're going to hold you accountable. And it's more than even if they understand what you're saying, subconsciously, quantum mechanics, spiritual connection, whatever you want to call it, it's going to land. It's going to hit emotionally of guilt wise. A judge probably never got a bill. A judge probably never gets a notice of default. Obviously, they get it to judge on between someone else. But when they see their name on it, a signature that's not just a faulty fake fraud signature that we see on this side, but real signatures, real people, not robo-sign, MERS, just electronically. He knows the employee put that there. He knows, oh, there's 3 real individuals in my own community that I may bump into as I'm going to the store. And yeah, my entire job was also affected because now I'm holding a default letter in my hand that, if that just even gets publicized, hurts his elections, hurts everything, has repercussions. If you're trying to argue any law or anything else, he has full dominion, he has rank, he has comfortability within his own job, industry. You're not going to get anywhere with that. You may, but I'm telling you, when you're back against the wall, it's not going to work. Trust this system. I know it's a reach and far because it's not written down very much anywhere. If you need examples of it working, follow these guys, the Equity Cal Washington and Andrew McDonald. They will show you how they're applying it in their industry and niches, and it's working. Working as in working utility-wise on our face, but also working and communicating with the higher realms in that jurisdiction, and teaching people how to actually apply and deal with those higher courts. Not the courts that are in this. Obviously, we're going to be in those physical locations and times, but in those locations and times, we're not speaking to the human that's in front of us. We're speaking to the intellect, the entity, the spirit, the jurisdiction, the abstract thought, the culture, the stigmas that are all channeled and stuck to that person. Which is, again, why, yeah, you can go look at which judge you're going to get for a case and try to play that game too. I'm telling you, unless they're Jesus, they're going to be subject under a dominion, under a demon, under a jurisdiction. I'm not saying it's always a bad demon. It could be an angel, good demon, but they have that access and control. Not the person, but the higher realms have access to control to this. Which I can tell you, Lucifer has dominion on this side, and I can pretty much tell you Jesus or God has the dominion on this side. So stick to this, find one of those, and start referencing those quotes. And I know it's hard to read because, they spell living L-I-U-I-N-G instead of L-I-V-I-N-G. It's even more difficult than our current versions of thou and whatnot. But it's needed, especially when you're putting on black and white paper. That is spell casting, and you need that exact. Do you need the cat hair? You need the dog hair. That's what you need. You need the U or you need the O. That U and O and that one word can change a lot of things. Don't get fear caught up that if you're missing things that it won't work. You have to trust that you're also here as a learning individual person. So, yeah, this side may highlight it for you that you messed up, but it gives you the opportunity to fix. If not, hopefully we've structured enough here that it gives you that they can't play the game anymore. But yeah. So there are 2 utilities of this. One, the utility is obviously getting rid of the debts, getting rid of the money, getting rid of the created credit creation. Same thing people do on the credit with their cars and stuff and whatnot. They're simplified and easily able to do that. That's more common now. This is a much bigger asset. As much as the clerks and the judges don't really care, they just pencil through everything. This is a much bigger debt and asset and much bigger tied to our economy and system, that if you with it, it's going to with our economy and system. And that's why no one wants to touch that 1,000-pound gorilla. They don't know if they're going to poke it and it's going to turn into this big demon, and the world's going to collapse because the dollar collapsed, or if the gorilla is going to, be a friend, be a pet, be someone that's going to play with you and, help you build. Um, and I think we need to start knowing that if we guide it on this side, we can control it. If we allow, even we're individual people, we think we control this through legislation and whatnot. We've seen through example, I don't know how to explain it, but you can just see through examples that it's just not. It's just this is the free world, free reign, which is asked backwards. This is how you actually make a free world that's not guns ho free reign. The utopia version versus the all end world hellfire version. And I think that's kind of it's more than just who takes the highest God seat position. It's more about which system works better. I think it's kind of common sense that the agreement works better than the argument. And to apply that, here's that. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. There was one other thing. It may be hard to find, but if you just find a pen, you can pull out the tip on it, and you got a nice little nifty straw. If you take that, you can suck it the fuck up. That dollar is going away. Your bank accounts are going to get changed, and the system's going away. Why? Because we have hungry homeowners that need their debts gone. We have hungry renters that need those debts gone so they can have lower rent. And we have people just vacant, empty houses sitting everywhere. What the fuck? And people on the roads. What the fuck? Stop giving this back to them. Stop giving this back to them. Because it was never existent. And if that hurts your feelings or you think that's conspiracy, here's a straw.